bundling as a commitment device, or it's a more of a first cousin somehow?
I see temptation bundling as a new type of commitment device with some distinct features from standard commitment devices. So a standard commitment device typically provides some consequence if you fail to engage in the intended behavior. And so this is a little different. What we're doing here is basically combining two commitments with each other, and they sort of fit like puzzle pieces. So you're using something that's instantly gratifying to create a pull to provide the motivation you need to do something that's unpleasurable at the moment of engagement. And then the other component that's different is that you can actually have complementarities, which is an econ speak term for peanut butter and jelly, two things that go better together and are more enjoyable together than they would be separately. And so one of the neat things about, for instance, only allowing yourself to watch your favorite TV show while you're at the gym is the fact that you might actually enjoy your workout more and you might enjoy the TV show more when you do them together, whereas a traditional commitment device just penalizes some behavior.
Great. Okay, so in theory, I'm sure everybody hearing this says, oh man, Katie, that's brilliant. That is such a good way to approach problem solving. So that's the theory at least, but now you need to find out if in practice it works. So talk about what you did to find out if temptation bundling could actually improve outcomes.
Absolutely. So we ran an experiment actually at the gym at the University of Pennsylvania with a bunch of participants who told us that they wanted to exercise more. And we randomly assigned...
How did you find these subjects in the first place?
We posted flyers all over the campus. We sent out email blasts to every listserv we could find. And the people who came told us they desperately wanted to exercise more. And they also had to have an iPod to be in our study. And they had to belong to the University of Pennsylvania gym so that they could enter and exit as they pleased.
Okay, good.
So we took these participants who wanted to exercise more and we randomly assigned them through a coin toss to one of several different groups. The first experimental group was a treatment group, and these participants came in and they had their iPod with them, and we told them that we were actually going to give them a new iPod in addition to the one they already had that would be preloaded with 4 tempting audio novels of their choice. So we had a list of 82 books that had been pre-rated as extremely tempting and difficult to put down once you get engaged. So these are books like The Da Vinci Code and The Hunger Games.
The rules of the Hunger Games are simple. In punishment for the uprising, each of the 12 districts must provide one girl and one boy, called tributes, to participate.
Participants choose the 4 that appeal most to them, load them on this loaned audio novel device, an iPod, and then they take them to the gym and they do a 30-minute workout while listening to the first audio novel.
I have to say that it's so flattering as a writer that you are treating hearing a book as a treat that people get for having to work out. That's so awesome.
It is awesome. I love that it works, too. I do suspect that TV would have been even more tempting and enticing, but I think there are some novels that really grab you. And in fact, actually, almost half of the participants in our study at the time when we ran it chose The Hunger Games. It was really popular right then. It was a fabulous book for this study, I think, because it's so addictive. Once you get into it, it's just impossible to put the book down because you desperately want to know what happens.
Happy Hunger Games, and may the odds be ever in your favor.
You only have access to the audio version of the book when you're at the gym, correct?
That's right. So the participants in our study, they listen to the first 30 minutes and then they're told, and this is while exercising, they're told if they want to hear what happens next, they'll have to come back to the gym where we're going to hold this iPod we've loaned them in a locked, monitored locker that they can only check out when exercising. So that's the first experimental group.
Yep.
Second experimental group has a very similar experience. They also get tempting audio novels. They also listen to the first 30 minutes, but this time those tempting audio novels are loaded onto their personal iPods, and they also do the workout for 30 minutes while listening to the novel, but they are told, why don't you try to only listen while exercising? But we won't enforce it. So we want to see if actually people can self-impose this rule successfully, which would be great, because if we can just educate people about this strategy and that's all we need to do, and that can have a benefit, that means it's a really easy job to roll out temptation bundling to the world.
Great. Okay.
Finally, we have our third group, which is actually a control group. And the control group, instead of receiving a tempting audio novel, they received an equally valued gift certificate to Barnes & Noble. And they also completed a 30-minute workout at the beginning of the study, but not while listening to a novel. They could do whatever they wanted. They had their iPod, so maybe they listened to music, maybe they listened to a novel. They could do whatever they wanted, but we didn't control that. And we simply encouraged them to exercise more.
Okay, so you've got the 3 groups, the ones who can only listen to the novel that you get them addicted to while at the gym.
Yes.
The second group who you give them the addictive material, but they don't have to come to the gym to listen to it. And the third group who don't even get the addictive material unless they go out and buy it themselves with the money that you gave them, right? Those are the three groups?
Those are the three groups. I'd add to the middle group that gets the addictive material and doesn't have to listen to it at the gym, but we strongly encourage them to only allow themselves to listen when they're at the gym. So it's framed as try to only use this to lure yourself to the gym as opposed to here's just some material. So they're given the tool in a sense, they're just not given the restriction. They have to self-impose it.
Okay, so three groups. The data you collected for people went for a minimum of 9 weeks, I believe you said, yes?
That's right. That's our follow-on period. So basically what we're doing is we have this period. At the end of that, they're paid for being in the study, dismissed. They fill out some survey measures, and we thank them. So our critical period is whether or not they exercise more during those 9 weeks while we're imposing these different rules on them and giving them access to temptation bundling.
Okay.
And so what we see is that for the first 7 weeks of our study, the full treatment group exercises significantly more than the control. And the group that's given access to the audio novels and asked to just self-impose the rules right in between the two. So that's good news in a sense. They look a bit better than control initially. And so that seems like maybe people can actually do this for themselves, although they're not doing as well as the people who have the full binding commitment that we've provided. And then we see a little bit of wear off. And then over 7 weeks, this is working. Participants then on the 7th week go home. It's Thanksgiving break. The gym is closed. When they come back, we look at the data and we see that the effect is completely eliminated. So when they come back, they seem to have forgotten about their novels, perhaps. And they're no longer motivated by temptation bundling. So on the one hand, this is actually kind of neat because it suggests that wanting to know what happens next in your novel may really be what's driving our effects as we'd hope, because forced separation is the one thing we know reduces cravings. But it also means we have more work to do to figure out how to re-engage people with temptation bundling after time away from the gym.
For the people in the first group, the treatment group, who can only hear the material at the gym, do they actually have to be working out at the gym to hear it? Or can they just come and get the iPod out of the locker and listen to the novel while sitting and drinking a milkshake or something?
That's a great question. When we did the study, we had no way of forcing them to work out while they were listening to the novel. We did actually have their security folks who sit right by the locker where these things are being held, and we asked them whether or not they saw people coming and sitting, hanging out. They said the people who were coming to the locker were coming to work out and they were in their workout clothes, but that's anecdotal rather than empirical. What would be really cool is if we had Fitbits, for instance, on everyone and could actually track how much exercise they're doing. And I'm doing new research right now that Fitbits are much more widely distributed than they were when I ran the study, where we are trying to do things like that, where we actually track physical activity, not just, in this case, all we could track is whether or not they enter and exit the gym.
Awesome. And I'm guessing there's so many places you could go with that, because you could see pace and intensity and all different kinds of things of workout depending on material and inspiration.
Exactly. Yeah, there's so many neat things you can see with Fitbit data.
There are also a lot of neat things that Milkman can envision doing with temptation bundling more generally.
One thing you could do is imagine building this into an app, for instance, that let you create certain geolocations, like all the gyms you belong to or the only gym you belong to, where you can access tempting content on your iPod, and then set restrictions so you can say, I can only access this content at those tempting locations.
And then there's what she calls GymFlix.
GymFlix is one of my favorite suggested products. So imagine that you took a company like Netflix and you called it GymFlix, and you let people set aside certain TV shows for gym-only access. My research suggests that a product like that might be very attractive to people.
Coming up on Freakonomics Radio, what do you think is the most common temptation that is bundled by Freakonomics Radio listeners?
I like to drink scotch while I fold laundry.
I like to enjoy a cold beer while I clean the house.
A drink that I love making, I call it the nectar of the gods.
And we explore what Katie Milkman calls the fresh start effect.
Like, when I wake up sometimes, I feel sometimes that I'm a new person.
I went vegetarian, on my birthday in 1997.
My birthday's coming up in 2 weeks, and I'm just tired of being fat.
We are talking with Katie Milkman of the Wharton School at Penn. She's been doing research on temptation bundling and how it can help motivate us to do the things we ought to be doing, but left to our own devices, might not do. Milkman has also been doing research on what she calls the Fresh Start effect.
So the work I've done on the Fresh Start effect was actually motivated by giving a talk out at Google a couple of years ago and telling them about some of the different tools I had done research on that can be helpful to getting people to do things like exercise and get flu shots and follow through on various other goals that they intend to follow through on but sometimes fail to. And one of the HR folks at Google asked me this great question while I was out there. He said, we see that there are all these tools available and we'd love to roll them out and try to promote them to our employees to encourage more long-term focused behaviors, but do you have a sense of when it would be best to deploy these tools? What is the best time? And we just hadn't looked at that in my research group. So that's actually what motivated the work I've done on the Fresh Start effect.
Right. And what kind of tools were they trying to roll out?
So I actually talked about the idea of temptation bundling. So that was one of the things I'd presented. I'd also presented some of my research showing that if you prompt people to form concrete plans about exactly when they intend to follow through on a given behavior, in this case it was getting a flu shot or getting a colonoscopy, even in the privacy of their own home, if they're just prompted to think through privately the date and time when they intend to do that, that actually increases follow through quite significantly and substantially. So those are the tools that I had just presented, and they said, when do we roll these out? And I sat back and I scratched my head and I thought, we know about the New Year's effect.
We do know about the New Year's effect, that a lot of people make resolutions that they at least try to keep. Here are a few samples from people we spoke with.
So my resolution for New Year's was to smile more.
I make the same one every year. Yeah? Eat less, more.
I mean, it was New Year's last year, and I did start doing yoga, and now I do go 3 times a week. And it's only to stop the inevitable decline of my person, because I'm 33. But I think it's the best thing I've done for myself in a long time, and it was New Year's.
Is it a resolution if your wife decides that you can't wear tube socks anymore? That was a resolution, because they were thrown away.
We create these resolutions, and there's a lot of social support for that kind of thing, so it's not clear that that is anything besides a social norm or a social ritual, but I wondered if there might be something more to it. And in particular, one of the things that struck me is that at the start of a new year, we feel like we have a clean slate. It's the fresh start effect, in essence, that I feel at the beginning of a new year is driven by the fact that last year's behind me, all of my past failures are from last year, and I can think, those are not me, that's old me, that's not new me. New me isn't going to make these mistakes. And so I thought, if that's true, if that's part of what's going on at the beginning of the new year, then there should be lots of other cycles that show that pattern as well. So we should see the same kinds of dissociation from our past failings and same motivation to do better on this cycle at the beginning of a new week, the beginning of a new month, following birthdays when we feel like we're beginning a new cycle in our own lives, following holidays, which may stand apart from other dates and create the start of a new cycle for us personally as well.
So talk about the evidence you have and where the evidence comes from. What you go looking for, where you're getting the data to do that.
Yeah, well, so the very first data set we explored actually was maybe very natural given that the idea originated at Google. The first thing we did is we downloaded searches for the term diet on Google. And diet, by the way, is the most popular New Year's resolution. It's the thing that we most struggle with, and that applies to me as well. So we downloaded daily search volume for this term over the course of 8 years, which you can get from Google. And what we did is we looked to see whether or not there were any particular moments when it bounced up and whether or not, in fact, it was consistent with our hypothesis, which was that people would search more for the term diet at the beginning of a new week, month, year, and following holidays. And we found indeed that that's exactly the case in that data set. So we see bigger effects for dates that feel like fresh starts. And if we look at placebo terms, something like weather or news that people often search for, we don't see those patterns. So it's something distinct happening when we look at the term diet. So that was our very first exploration. We got all excited about what we saw, and we said, well, let's see. That's just information search, information gathering. What about real behavior? So we actually went to this data set on all of the visits to the gym by undergraduates at the University of Pennsylvania, which we had at our fingertips, and said, maybe we'll see it in gym visits too. And when we looked at that data, what we saw is that people visit the gym, the very same undergraduate, in fact, we can look within student and see that the very same undergraduate is more likely to visit the gym at the start of a new week, month, year, following holidays and following birthdays, with the notable exception of 21st birthdays. And I'll let you speculate as to why that might be different.
I'm guessing alcohol may be involved.
I'm letting you speculate. I don't have any data on exactly why. But, my speculation may or may not have gone in the same direction.
Judging by the submissions you sent when we asked for your examples of temptation bundling, I'd say that yes, alcohol may be involved.
I like to drink scotch while I fold laundry.
If I don't work out, I don't drink beer. That's my trade-off.
My name is Filip Nilsson and I live in Sweden. And my temptation bundle is actually cleaning my apartment before going out for drinks with my friends.
So I'm thinking of the different ways that one might look at this fresh start effect. So one would be that, the beginning of a new year, or maybe a new school term, or some new, some demarcation of time that feels like your past is behind you and your future's ahead of you, and then you embark on this thing. And theoretically, that thing that you embark on is better for you. But then talk about the degree to which people fall off. And the implication is that it's bad to fall off, but I guess I'm thinking, well, maybe this activity they were trying to change or add to wasn't that important to them.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fall off with New Year's resolutions or with any goal that we're pursuing, with anything that requires willpower.
New Year's, I always say I need to stop smoking cigarettes, and I always revert back to smoking a couple of days after.
I find resolutions are tough. Like, I try to meditate more in the new year, and it doesn't go well.
For the new year, you say you're going to lose weight or do something like that. Then by February, I fell off.
Some people say that means why even bother in the first place? Why even form New Year's resolutions if you're going to fall off?
Right.
I think there's a few different responses to that. One is you can't hit a home run if you don't swing. So it's never going to work if you don't start. And I think that suggests that we want fresh start moments to motivate people, and hopefully eventually they'll actually hit the home run, even if they fall off a bunch of times. So that's one answer. Another answer is that sometimes actually the behavior just takes a tiny bit of effort. So there are some things we can do that are just a one-time decision, and they make a huge impact on the rest of our lives. For instance, if you just sign up for a 401k plan just once, then you're going to be saving forever after. Or if you just get your flu shot, you only have to do that once a year, and then it has benefits for the remainder of the year. A lot of different medical procedures have that characteristic where if you can just get people to do it once every so often, even a low frequency like a colonoscopy once every 10 years can be enough to save many lives. So I think we can also think about the fresh start effect as having a lot of benefits for those kinds of one-time behaviors with huge downstream consequences that are positive.
Okay, so considering that you've identified this and found evidence for it in the data, what can you do about it? How can you use this knowledge to help people make more pro-social choices?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think there's a bunch of different implications. So one thing we've tried is just reminding people that a given day is a fresh start. So for instance, we have one experiment where we reminded people that a certain day was the first day of spring. And we experimentally compared people who we reminded a certain day was the first day of spring with another group that we didn't. And the group that got that first day of spring reminder was more motivated to pursue their goals and receive a reminder about their goals specifically on the first day of spring when it was labeled as such. And so you can think about just reframing a given day, reminding someone that it is an opportunity for a fresh start as one intervention that might increase engagement in fresh start behaviors. You could also think about just asking people to do things that are good for them on fresh start dates. So you might try to roll out, for instance, a planning prompt campaign or offer people an opportunity to sign up for a commitment device or for a temptation bundling device on a fresh start date when we know their natural inclination and their motivation to do things like exercise and diet. And by the way, we also found the fresh start effect with non-health related goals. So looking at things like financial goals and educational goals. So whatever it is that they're striving to do, if we provide them with the tools they need at a moment when they're feeling fresh, they may be more likely to take advantage of those tools and start a good new habit.
All right, so Katie, let me play devil's advocate for a minute. It's more like jerk's advocate, not so much devil's advocate. But why should smart, motivated people like you have to work so hard to nudge and trick people into taking better care of themselves, for instance? Why not just let Darwinian forces do their thing and weed out the people who are too lazy to go to the gym or get a vaccine?
There are a lot of different answers. One could be that you simply want to see better outcomes for people who maybe didn't realize what they needed to do or were too busy to figure out what they needed to do. So this is one way of helping people who maybe really would do this if they had the time and energy and education. Another answer would be that there's huge social benefits, right? So even selfishly, we all pay the costs when other people fail to exert the willpower needed to take care of themselves. And so you could even think of a selfish reason for engaging in this kind of research and in providing these kinds of benefits, which is that society is going to pay the cost when bad things happen to people who didn't take care of themselves. But I like to think of it as a more altruistic motive.
Can I just say for the record that I don't really agree with the jerk's advocate argument. I just wanted to hear what you had to say.
I know.
I'm on your side.
Hey, Audie.
Hey there, Ari.
What's better for falling asleep than a glass of warm milk? A glass of warm night milk.
Is that a thing?
Here's the thing. Researchers tested the milk from
Avoiding
cows
friendly
that were
fire
milked
is
at
just
night.
a suggestion.
They looked for tryptophan and melatonin, two of the things that help people fall asleep. And
the results are astounding. The nighttime collected milk had almost 10 times more melatonin as compared to daytime collected milk.
That was the editor of the Journal of Medicinal Food, which published the study. His name is Dr. Sampath Parthasarathy.
I go by the name Dr. Sam.
Dr. Sam says the researchers found that night milk also made mice that consumed it sleepy.
What?
Well, they fed mice two kinds of milk powder. One collected during the day, the other collected at night. And here I have a quote from the research paper. Night milk-treated animals exhibited impaired motor balance and coordination. In other words, don't drink night milk and drive.
This will be a very exciting finding for many people who are often sleep deprived, who have awakening pattern in the night.
But Dr. Sam was quick to add that night milk has not yet been tested on humans.
Right, and most milk you buy in the supermarket is pooled anyway, so there's no guarantee what time of day it was procured. So this may not be a helpful strategy for insomniacs out there, unless you have your own cow handy.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Jim Hall.
The college football playoffs were on ESPN last night, and ESPN's parent company, Disney, wasn't about to let it happen. The playoffs were even written into a soap opera. ABC's General Hospital, also owned by Disney, had characters talking about what they'd be doing for New Year's Eve.
I was planning on checking out the Floating Rib because they're playing the college football playoff.
Hey, Jason, you got anything going on tonight? Dante and I are going to go to the Floating Rib and watch the college football playoffs. You want to come along?
I really enjoy watching football on New Year's.
Okay, well, you're in luck because ESPN's doing it again next year.
Hat tip to Deadspin for that amazing GH montage, by the way. So did ESPN get the ratings it hoped for? John Arand of the Sports Business Journal. And John Arand, how is the network spinning these numbers this morning? How did they do?
They're spinning them furiously, but this is about as worst a case scenario as ESPN could have come up with. Overnight ratings are down about 35% from last year when the games were held on New Year's Day. Much more than I was expecting.
But what is the reasoning behind all this? Why were these games moved to New Year's Eve?
These games were moved to New Year's Eve as part of a plan by college football executives where they want to create a tradition of watching football on New Year's Eve. They take a look at what the NFL has done with Thanksgiving Day, what the NBA has done with Christmas Day, and what Major League Baseball has done with July 4th, and they think that they can create New Year's Eve as the college football semifinal, and it would be a great way to brand it, and they can New Year's Eve as much as college football is identified with New Year's Day.
Did it work in your house?
Yes and no. I went over to a friend's house. My wife and I went over to a friend's house, and we had dinner. The kids were watching television. We were getting the score reports, but I probably didn't see more than maybe 3 plays of the night game.
ESPN is spending a reported $7 billion to air college football playoffs. Could a bad showing on New Year's Eve force the network to try and move the games back to New Year's Day?
New Year's Day probably is not going to work. And one of the main reasons it's not going to work is that the Rose Bowl is on New Year's Day, and it's not moving. So last year they were able to have it on New Year's Day because the Rose Bowl hosted one of the semifinals. So it was able to do it on New Year's Day. But until that happens again, it's going to have to be on New Year's Eve or maybe the day after New Year's Day.
Were the numbers actually higher last year in part because it was the first time people had this kind of playoff?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that I would expect them to hold these games next New Year's Eve. Last year, we had big college football brands in the game. You had Ohio State playing Alabama. Chicago. You had a couple of first-round draft picks playing in the other game. And there was a lot of excitement that came with it, and it was on New Year's Day when more people are watching television. So it was going to be a tough comparison this year, especially coming on New Year's Eve with brands and with teams that weren't necessarily as popular as they were last year.
John Ourand of the Sports Business Journal, thanks so much for speaking with us.
Thank you very much.
Next. It's Morning Edition from NPR News. Good morning. I'm David Green.
And I'm Steve Inskeep. A couple of months ago, NPR's Planet Money team reported on a new charity called Give Directly that was trying to help poor people in the developing world in an unusual way. Just send them money. Bernard Omondi, who lives in a remote village in western Kenya, remembers the day his money arrived. He got a text message on his phone.
It was sent very early in the morning. Because I'm playing wireless. I was still in my bed. I jumped up. My wife asked me, "Bernard, what is it?" Then I told her, "The guys of Give Direct have sent us the money. It's here."
Mr. Omondi received $1,000, roughly what he might have made from a year of work. Now we have some research that examines how well all this is working. Here's NPR's David Kestenbaum.
The idea behind giving money is simple. Poor people know what they need, and if you give them money, they can buy it. But to some veterans of the charity, giving cash is worrisome. When we first reported on this, we spoke with Carol Bellamy, who used to run UNICEF. She was concerned the money might be spent on the wrong things.
Cigarettes, alcohol, weapons, gambling it away, all the kinds of things that you don't want to have happen with money that just you find in your pocket.
To see if this was actually happening, researchers have now done an experiment.
What?
They surveyed people in Kenya who had gotten money, and they surveyed people who did not get money. Then they compared the two groups. Johannes Haushofer was one of the researchers. He's an economist at MIT's Poverty Action Lab. He said there were almost 1,000 people in all, and the surveys were quite extensive.
It's a fairly long interview that takes, for a single household, on average about 6 hours.
The results from all this work, he says they are encouraging. People used the money to buy cows and start businesses. Their kids went hungry less often.
We don't see people spending the money on alcohol and tobacco. And instead, we see them investing in their kids' education, in healthcare. They buy more and better food. We see violence go down, psychological well-being go up quite significantly.
Full disclosure, Haushofer's co-author helped found Give Directly, but no longer works there. I called up Carol Bellamy, the former UNICEF director who had been skeptical about giving cash, and asked her what she thought of the new research.
Well, I must say the results were quite positive.
I mean, does it make you less?
It does. I was impressed with the return on investment. It was more positive than I would have anticipated.
How did you not
There were two areas where the study did not find significant improvement, though. Even though households were spending more money on health and education, it did not seem to be having much effect. People who got money were still sick just as often, and school attendance rates for their kids didn't really change.
Whether it really makes long-term changes, I think that question is still unanswered.
Paul Niehaus, one of Give Directly's founders, does think cash can have long-lasting effects. He points to a similar study in Uganda, where the government gave people money, and people's incomes went up and stayed up, even years later. People had used the money to start businesses, metalworking, or tailoring clothes. Niehaus says that for him, the most interesting part of the new research were the findings on mental health. Getting money just made people happy and less stressed out.
Being poor is really stressful, and that can make it hard to sort of plan and make good decisions. And so, if one of the things that giving people wealth is doing is enabling them to feel more sane and more organized and more in control of their life. That could ultimately be one of the most important things.
Niehaus thinks cash works so well. He says other charities should be doing their own experiments. They should prove, he says, that whatever they're spending money on is better than just giving that money to the people they're trying to help. David Kestenbaum, NPR News.
With the way things have been going in Oklahoma, this didn't come as a surprise. The state opened 2016 with a 4.2 magnitude earthquake this morning. There have been at least a dozen earthquakes in the state just since Tuesday. Now, for all of 2015, Oklahoma saw more than 800 earthquakes at magnitude 3.0 or greater. This is not the way it used to be. Regulators and researchers say the rise in quakes is due to oil and gas production that involves re-injecting vast amounts of salt and water. To talk more, we turn to Todd Hallahan. He's a professor in the School of Geology at Oklahoma.
Thanks for listening to Car Talk. For music games, puzzles, and trivia of all sorts, check out Ask Me Another. Ask Me Another. It's like trivia night, but without the overpriced drinks. Play along now at npr.org/podcast and on the NPR One app.
SF round. Okay. Well, actually, you forgot Poland.
Hello and welcome to Car Talk from National Public Radio with us, Click and Clack, the Tappet Brothers, and we're broadcasting this week from the Gender-Based Procurement Division here at Car Talk Plaza, i.e. gifts for men. We figure that some of you are faced with this very dilemma at this time of year. What to buy for the man? And Richard Pullman from UFL.edu, is that University of Florida or is it unidentified flying educator, sent us this treatise on the subject.
What it says is gifts for men. Buying gifts for men is not nearly as complicated as it is for women. Follow these rules and you should have no problems. And then there are 3 pages of rules, but I'll just give you a couple
Summarize.
that I liked. Rule number 1. When in doubt, buy him a cordless drill.
Don't you hate it when
it does
PPL
not matter
rush out
if he already
main door
has
with
one. I
name?
have a friend who owns 17 cordless drills, and he has yet to complain. As a man, you can never have too many cordless drills. No one knows why.
That's true.
Isn't it the truth?
I bought my nephew 3 of them.
That's right, you did.
Oh, well.
I think
I
it's
mean,
rude.
the second time it was excusable, but the third time. Come on.
I ran out of ideas.
Rule 7. Buy a man a label maker. There will be labels absolutely everywhere. Socks, shorts, cups, sauces, sink.
Labels.
No one knows why.
Jeez, it's true.
Rule 9. Good places to shop for men include North Lumber, Home Depot, John Deere,
Thanks
Valley
for the team
RV
switch.
Center, and Les Schwab Tire.
Welcome.
Napa Auto Parts and Sears Clearance Centers are also excellent men's stores. It doesn't matter if he doesn't know
Ready to
what
start
it is.
winning rounds again.
It's from Napa Auto. Must be
Negative.
something I need. Hey, isn't that a starter for
Hell
a
yeah.
68 Ford Fairlane? Wow, thanks. I mean, isn't it true?
Pretty much.
Here's the last one. Rope. Men love rope. It takes us back to our cowboy origins, or at least the Boy Scouts. Nothing says love like 100 feet of 3/8-inch manila rope. No one knows why. Whoever put that together, and there are many others, they'll all be on the website. I think this is the kind of stuff that's helpful, especially in these times. Women are trying to buy gifts for us.
Yes.
I wish there was such a list
TS
for
Nexus
men.
the other way around.
Well,
I'm sure.
How many pairs of earrings am I going to buy?
I don't know.
Help me out.
It is complicated. It is complicated. It gets harder and harder every year.
Isn't it though? Well, you know, part of the reason it gets harder is because over the years, you learn more about your failures, like buying lingerie. I mean, how did I know that was a mistake? It took me 15, 20 years to figure out that that wasn't a gift for her.
Yeah.
That was a gift for me.
Yeah, there you go. We need help. If you have any help for us, write soon. Man, if you'd like to talk about your car, the number is 888-CAR-TALK. That's 888-227-8255. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
Good.
I'm glad to hear that because I need your help.
Well, what kind of gifts do you like for Christmas or New Year's or birthdays or whatever? What do you give to a woman?
You know, I don't
You
know.
are a
I'm
woman,
probably
right?
Not the... I think so.
Yeah.
My husband thinks so.
He does. Excellent. What does he give you? And are you thrilled with the things he gives you, or you just say, "Oh, thank you, hon," just to make him feel good?
Actually, he has much better taste than I do, so I love everything he gets me. And we've only been married for 8 months, so we're still in that newlywed phase. So he could get me a wrench, and I would probably jump up and down. I'd be really happy.
Oh, or he could get you something from that Victoria's Secret catalog.
Well, like you said, that would be more for him. For me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe, but
all right.
doesn't
Well,
make any difference who it's for.
As long as it's wrapped up in a box with a ribbon
as
on
long as it works.
All right. What's your name?
Sylvia.
Sylvia, where are you from, Sylvia?
I'm up here in Seattle.
Well, you said we have to help you. Why?
Well, because we have a car that's in bad shape. We bought it right before we got married because we had a car before that was just a complete death trap. So we thought, okay, we'll buy an Acura Integra GS. Acura, is supposed to run forever. It only had 120,000 miles on it. We bought it down in Utah, drove it all over the country for receptions and stuff. And then we came up to Seattle, and within a month, it started running really rough. So I took it to the little guys at Precision Tune, and they ran an engine check on it, and they said cylinder number 2 is operating at 25 PSI.
Oh, bummer.
First of all, what does that even mean? How many PSI is it supposed to run at?
It's supposed to have at least 125. So 25
probably
is
150 even.
Yeah. What that number actually means is the number of pounds per square inch of compression that's generated when each up on its compression stroke and compresses the gas and air in the cylinder. And minimum is pretty much 125, but your car might be 150 or 160. But 25 ain't good.
It's basically not working. That cylinder's
I feel
out.
like shit from last
It's
night
gone,
in
so.
Stone.
But it's not the end of the world necessarily.
Well, what I was going to ask you was that somebody who shall remain nameless unless you decide that this is a good idea, said that maybe we'd try shutting down that cylinder and just running on 3 cylinders.
It's got to be
He's
your
a
husband.
moron. Is it your father?
No.
Your husband.
That
not. Knucklehead.
Yeah, no, that's a silly idea.
Okay.
You can't do it, and even if you could, it would be terrible.
Well, I mean, you could do it.
No.
But it would depend on how much longer you expect to keep the car.
Yeah.
If you wanted to live
if it's like less than a week.
Yeah. If the time frame is a week or 2, then you would simply unplug that fuel and just drive the car. And at the very least, you would prevent that unburned gas from getting into the converter and fouling it and the air, so you have to breathe.
If they thought that was going to make it run better, duh.
Oh, no, it's not going to make it run better.
Because then the compression is going to be 0. So the effect so it's going to run worse. You could say, well, if it runs on 4 cylinders, why not 3? But it doesn't work.
Did you get a price to fix this, Sylvia?
Well, we're thinking that it's a ring problem. So
No.
We're not sure what we're going to do. We're thinking about getting a used engine, but we might spend $1,000 and have it last for another 2 months. And then someone said that if we get just 1 cylinder fixed, then the other 3 are going to go bad
Did you see me
pretty
squirm?
soon.
Whoever your friends are, they are full of platitudes and old wives' tales.
And misinformation.
Completely bogus information.
It's unlikely to be a ring.
Okay.
Yeah. What it is valves.
Oh, yeah?
Damn, hit
When
right
you
in
do
the
a
face
valve
with
job, you do all the
203.
valves, of course. You don't just do the one that's
Hacker
burned.
down.
You may notice it burns a little more
Laughing
oil
out
afterward,
loud.
but I would certainly take the cylinder head off.
Uh-huh.
And I think I'd do a valve job on it.
I would too.
It's going to cost you $1,000.
It is.
Yeah.
Good luck, Sylvia.
Thanks a lot.
See you later.
Okay, kid.
All right.
1-888-CAR Talk. That's 888-888-227.
I gotta wait 2 more days, then I can play wired again. Wireless sucks.
Hi, this is Matt Newcomb, and I'm calling you from the one and only Amundsen Scott South Pole Station in Antarctica.
No!
Really?
How are you?
I'm doing just fine. I'm trying to stay warm down here. It's a nice and balmy minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit out today. The wind chill's a little high. It's down in the minus 60s today, but summer's coming, so hey, I'm hoping.
Summer's coming.
That'll mean it's going to go up to like 20 below. Wow.
Maybe.
How long have you been down there, Matt?
I've just been down here since beginning of November.
Oh.
I'm just one of the summer type people.
Oh, so you still have toes.
out. They mean positive 40 degrees.
Exactly. So what actually are you doing there?
I'm here with a group called CARA. It's Center for Astrophysical Research in Antarctica. I'm working on a 2-meter microwave telescope named Viper.
So, do you have a vehicle problem? Is that why you called us, or you just had squat to do?
No, we actually do have a vehicle problem. It's got tracks, not tires. But,
it doesn't matter.
We don't care.
We've got an LMC 1200. It's an old vehicle made by a subsidiary of the DeLorean Motor Company. It's got a Ford 6-cylinder engine in it, and it works fine when it's warmer than minus 40 outside.
Mm-hmm.
But when it gets colder, you can only drive it slow. If you start driving it quickly, it eventually starts bogging down, losing speed, and then just stalls, and you can't start it again. And you end up having to call the mechanics to come pull it off with a big Caterpillar tractor.
It has a carburetor, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got a carburetor.
That's it.
Take that carburetor right off, Matt, and...
Yeah, replace it with a polar bear. What? Take it off. What's he going to do? I think you have carburetor icing. I'm surprised it doesn't happen sooner.
Okay, so I'll carry a heat gun next time I take the thing out.
Well, exactly. And when the guys tow it back to the shop and they warm it up to, 0, it may be that enough of that ice melts that the thing will start and run again. And, of course, they can't find anything wrong with it. They can have it in the shop where I'm sure it's heated and probably 40 or 50 degrees above 0. And they rev the thing up and check all its vital signs and everything is okay. But out in the road, so to speak, it just can't take the weather. Alternatively, it could have low compression.
See, the trouble with the solutions to the carburetor icing problem are that you say that you take a hairdryer or something with you, but that's not really going to work because that will only work when you stop and you may be able to get it restarted. But as soon as you start to drive again, it's going to ice right up again because of every time air goes pouring through the carburetor, it gets colder. So as soon as you try to drive it, it's going to keep stalling out unless you put some kind of a permanent heater around the carburetor.
Yeah, actually, you might want to have them rig up a pipe that runs from the exhaust manifold up to the air cleaner so that the air cleaner can suck in hot air through that conduit, and it's warmed up by the proximity of the exhaust manifold. And that might be enough to keep the thing from freezing up. How much longer is your stint in Antarctica?
I'm just down here for another 2 or 3 days.
2 or 3 days?
I'm just down here for the weekend, Jeez.
Well, live it up and make sure to put on your sunblock.
Good luck, Matt. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
1-888-CAR-TALK or 1-888-227-8255. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Hi, this is Adrian from Gurnee, Illinois.
Adrian.
From where?
Gurnee, Illinois, in the majestic northern suburbs of Chicago.
Wow. Majestic. I like that, majestic.
How come Chicago have northern suburbs? Isn't there a lake up there?
Yeah, but we're on the west side.
West side.
Oh, trying to trick me, huh?
Well, we have water wings just in
So the majestic western suburbs of Chicago.
Well, that's good. You made it sound very romantic, Adrian.
That is poetic.
Well, it is, and I just knew that you guys are so tasteful that I have a really interesting question for you.
Having to do with taste.
Well,
we're ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
You sitting down?
Yeah, well, trying to lie down, but we're just sitting right now.
Up taking nourishment.
Well, I just want to tell you that I like to decorate.
Yeah.
And I want to know if it is safe or dangerous to put a Christmas wreath on the front grille of my car.
I can speak from...
What's this?
No,
they had the funeral wreath on the front.
No, several years ago, I was at the Christmas tree place. There, what is that? The place where you try to chisel the Boy Scouts for a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And I decided that I was going to buy a wreath for the front of my Dodge Dakota pickup because I
had you up. God knows, driving around in that thing.
And I did exactly that. I put, probably a 1.5 foot diameter wreath.
Yeah.
And in front of my pickup truck, and I can report.
How long did it take before it overheated?
It never overheated.
Excellent.
Well, until July.
You should have taken it down. There's one over there.
You think I should have? But no, I can safely advise you, Adrian, to go and do it.
What kind of a car do you have, Adrian?
Well, I have a black Jeep Cherokee. And those are right on the front grill. It's like the grill is begging for something. It seems kind of empty.
Yeah. Black and the green of the wreath.
Yeah.
I think that's excellent.
Yeah, I mean, the reason it's important, it isn't going to cause overheating, is that it's cold and there's probably enough cool air going through the radiator during the winter, which is certainly upon us. So that there's no danger for it overheating.
But it wouldn't catch fire, would it? Because my husband thought that maybe I could start a fire and the whole thing would explode.
Oh, from what?
Well, I don't know.
No, I mean, there's no heat up there.
No, the heat's going in the other direction.
Yeah, the heat is under the hood and is blowing backwards.
Right, you're out racing the heat.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's no danger of that.
Okay.
Unless your husband is trying to get it to...
Oh, no, he wouldn't do that.
He loves
there's no danger fire. The only danger is that you overheat the thing if you continue to drive it into March and April with the wreath on there, like I did.
Yeah, I mean, the only danger is overheating. Other than that, there is no danger, and there isn't much danger of overheating. So I would say this is a pretty safe practice up there in Gurnee, Illinois, in the majestic northwest suburbs.
So this is the extent of the decoration? I mean, I thought no other festooning? I mean, no
garlands?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you wouldn't put the garland on the front because that could get sucked in by the fan. But on the mirrors, the outside mirrors, I like that because then as you drive, it would float back.
Oh, I like that too. Yeah.
You know?
There you go.
That's kind of nice. Balloons are nice.
This is wonderful. So you've saved my marriage.
Yeah, we have?
Well.
That's all it took.
See you, Adrian.
Thanks for calling, Adrian.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Do you happen to remember last week's puzzler?
What do you mean, do I happen to remember it? As if it just happens? Well, remembering the puzzler doesn't just happen. It takes work. It takes a concerted effort. You have to have a plan if you want to remember the puzzler. You don't just happen to remember it.
Oh, so did you have a plan?
No.
Did you make a concerted effort?
No.
So you don't happen to remember the puzzler, do you?
No, I don't. I was just trying to make a point.
Point well taken. Anyway, the puzzle was about a truck that mysteriously lost 40 pounds.
Oh, only you could do that.
I'd love it. Look, we'll be back with the whole story.
And we'll take more of your questions in just a minute, so please stay tuned.
We passed the stores, we passed the hotels, filled our car with gas, and then we drove that.
I gave you sniper.
Then at the rest stop, and that woman tried to steal my wallet. It felt like an adventure. Isn't that what you would call it? Well, isn't that what you would call it? You're my road buddy, but I'm lonely all the time. I thought that we'd be joking.
After this one, let me please.
Late night driving, but you drive so bad I lost my patience. So past the chips and turned the station. This is not a romance with the road.
And even though Steve Inskeep dreams about opening a B&B in the Catskills whenever he hears us say it, this is
For
NPR.
everyone.
We'd like to thank one of the sponsors of this podcast, Tire Rack.
Break, be right
Since
back.
you're listening to Car Talk, at some point, you'll be thinking about new tires. If you couldn't hear what I just said over the road noise your old tires are making, you might want to think about new tires right now. At TireRack.com, they want you to know that the right tires for you, based on your car and how you drive, will be delivered in as little as one business day to a local recommended installer. TireRack.com. Find, deliver, install. Hi, we're back. You're listening to Car Talk with us, Click and Clack, the Tappert Brothers, and we're here to talk about cars, car repair, and, of course, the answer to last week's puzzler. And this was sent in recently by a fellow named Josh Kokendorfer, I think, and he says this is a true story. Of course, and it was a true story before I fooled around with it and fictionalized it, so it's no longer a true story.
It's now based on a true story, right?
But here's the one thing about this story. He threw in, and I didn't. I have to give Josh complete credit for this.
Yeah.
He threw in a combination obfuscation / hint.
Wow.
And when the appropriate time comes, there'll be a little drama.
Okay.
Here it is. It was a brisk December morning, and a co-worker and I had a simple job to do that day. Clean out the job site and take the trash to the local landfill. And we had an F-350 pickup that was outfitted with a dump truck bed, and we filled it up and headed out to the dump.
Yeah.
When we arrived at the landfill, we pulled the truck onto the scale. And the way it works is the truck is weighed when you drive in, and then you dump your load, and the truck gets weighed again on your way out. And the difference in weight is the weight of the trash that you dumped, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. So we unloaded, and we got weighed again and paid the bill. And on the way out, I informed the madame of the landfill that we would return in a few hours with a second load, and she grunted at me as I headed back to the truck. Okay, here's the drum roll.
Oh.
Now, before getting into the truck, I noticed that one of the back tires was low. I decided to stop at one of the local gas stations to check it out and fill all the tires just in case. Then we stopped for lunch, and eventually we loaded the truck a second time at the site and headed back to the landfill.
Yeah.
Everything went just like the first time. We got weighed, dumped our load, and we got weighed again. But after we paid the bill, my coworker, remember him?
Yeah.
Looked at the paperwork and said, something's not right. He said the first time we left, our empty truck weighed 6,480 pounds. But the second time we left, it says we weighed 6,440 pounds. 40 pounds less. But it's the same truck. And it's been perfectly empty each time. They just charged us for an extra 40 pounds of trash that we didn't dump.
No kidding.
I took the paperwork and stormed back into the office to complain. The madame of the dump looked at the numbers and grinned. She said, there's nothing wrong with our scales, bub. Well, if not, then what happened? Why did the same exact empty truck weigh 40 pounds less just a few hours later?
Yeah.
Now, the beautiful obfuscation here that I cited a little earlier was that they went to the gas station and filled up the tires.
Yes.
And filling up the tires had nothing to do with the weight of the truck. But going to the gas station, even though they didn't get gas, may have planted the seed that the reason the truck weighed 40 pounds less is that it burned 40 pounds of gas, or about 6 gallons.
Yeah.
After that first trip. So when
I love it.
When it left the dump the first time, went back to the job site, filled up, and came back, it burned 6 gallons of gas.
Because it was far away.
I didn't tell you how far it was.
You didn't.
I didn't. But it was after lunch, so it had to have been far away. Pretty good, huh?
Wow.
So who's our winner?
That's great. The winner is Ed.
If only this week's could be that good.
The winner is Ed Voliva from Newburgh, Indiana. And for having his answer selected at random from among the pile of correct answers that we got, Ed is going to get a $26 gift certificate to the Shameless Commerce Division at CarTalk.com, with which, I should tell you, he can get any one of our famous Car Talk CD collections, which are described in detail on our website.
And, of course, you could refoist on a relative this holiday season. Right? Anyway, we have a new puzzle coming up, so stay tuned. Or if you have a question about your car, actually, this puzzler is maybe automotive in nature. If you have a question about your car, the number is 888-CAR-TALK. That's 888-227-8255. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Hi, my name's Risa. I'm from Chandler, Arizona.
Risa?
Yes, it's German.
It's German.
It's a little town in Germany.
Really? It's a nice, very pretty name, Risa.
Well, thank you. Well, thank my parents. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So what's up, Risa?
Here's the deal. I went out of town a few months ago and left my 1.5-year-old son with my husband to babysit. Yes. And his idea of babysitting was to put my son in the car when he was gone. And in the interim, my son took about $30 worth of change and put it in the cassette deck.
Serves him right.
You're lucky he didn't swallow it.
Yeah.
Well, swallowed the other $20.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
men can't deal with it.
No, men are biologically, psychologically, and every other way unfit for the caring of children.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear 2 men finally admit that.
Oh, no.
Oh, finally? Are you kidding? I'll just tell you a little story. This is sad. Was it my son or my daughter? I think it was Anna.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my poor wife comes back from the hospital. She's running around like crazy, taking care of this little baby. And finally one day she says to me, I just need 15 minutes, she said. I have to just take myself a nice quiet shower, and can you just watch her for 15 minutes? So I walk around with her for 10 minutes, and then we start to play. And we're at the top of a stairway, and I put her down on the rug, and I'm tickling her, and we're having just a great old time. And somehow, don't ask me how it happened, I turned around, the kid was gone. And I see her bouncing down just as my wife opens the door from the bathroom, having taken her shower, and she sees the kid who she's entrusted to me for 15 minutes rolling down this, and I just smile and say, "Don't worry, hon, she's fine."
Very caring father, I could tell.
I mean, she accuses me to this day of pushing her down the stairs so that I would prove to her that I was incompetent. She would never ask me again. She never has asked me.
Whatever it was, it worked. Whatever it was, it worked. Yeah, so you now know that never, ever, ever again should you leave any of your children with your husband.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, well, she knows that. And you know, you want to fix this cassette player? You want to extract those coins?
My husband thinks that because of all this change going down the cassette deck, that it shorted out his tail lights.
Oh, no.
I told him there's no way. If the rest of your electrical panel's working, there's no way that change.
No, more likely your son chewed through the wires.
That's because your husband didn't tell you about the time that he put your son in the trunk.
Right? I'm convinced of it.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It has nothing to do with the tail lights.
I mean, it's well documented that animals that are trapped will chew through anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, it is a man. My son is a boy.
He is a boy.
God, right. Isn't it something?
Good luck.
Thank you.
And don't ever do that again.
You know.
Promise us.
I know.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Boy, my poor little daughter. That explains a lot now about her personality.
And why she hates you. Does it come as any surprise?
Every once in a while, she just bursts into, "You Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I got a good letter here.
Go ahead.
This is big news, actually. It's going to be important to lots of us. Continuing in the current trend of large-scale mergers and acquisitions, it was announced today at a press conference that Christmas and Hanukkah will merge.
Good idea.
An industry source said the deal had been in the works for about 1,300 years. While details weren't available at press time, it is believed that the overhead cost of having 12 days of Christmas and 8 days of Hanukkah was becoming prohibitive for both sides. By combining forces, we're told the world will be able to enjoy consistently high-quality service during the 15 days of Christmaka.
Christmaka.
As the new holiday is being called. Massive layoffs, of course, are expected, with lords a-leaping and maids a-milking being the hardest hit. As part of the conditions of the agreement, the letters on the dreidel, currently in Hebrew, will be replaced by Latin, thus becoming unintelligible to a much wider audience. Also, instead of translating to "a great miracle happened here," the message on the dreidel will be the more generic, "miraculous stuff happens." In exchange, it is believed that Jews will now be allowed to use Santa Claus and his vast merchandising resources for buying and delivering their gifts. This has been in the works for a long time. All sides appeared happy about this. A spokesman for Christmas Incorporated closed the press conference by leading all present in a rousing rendition of "Oi, come all ye faithful." Oh, I love it.
Well, it's pretty obvious, or it should be, that my brother has absolutely nothing to do during the week. So if you have something that he might be amused with, send it along to him at Mail for Tommy, Car Talk Plaza, Box 3500, Harvard Square, Cambridge.
Our fair city.
Matt 02238, or you can email us at 1-888 Talk. That's 888-227-8255. That's the number to call if you'd like to speak to us. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Hi, this is Jonathan calling from Denver.
Hi, Jonathan.
How are you?
Well, I could be better. My car is just a pain in the tuchus, as they say.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
You called the right guys, Jonathan.
Yeah. Now, we're a couple of tuchuses ourselves.
I've got a noise to make for you.
Well, what kind of a car is it?
We don't want to know.
No.
All right, don't tell us. We'll tell you.
No. Okay.
You tell us the noise, and we'll tell you what kind of car you got.
No, go ahead and tell me what car it is.
No,
we got to hear the noise first.
Give us the noise.
Okay. The noise it has to do with the car, but it's not coming from the car. This is the noise. I get a call, and I hear this. "Jonathan, this is Frank. I've got your car. It's ready. And then I go and pick it up, and I take it home, and it's the same problem. And then I get the same noise again later. I worked on your car again. I think it's ready. What do I do about this problem?
Oh, that kind of car. Okay, your car. I'm getting Japanese.
Oh no.
You're not getting Japanese?
Oh no.
Oh, I'm getting
Japanese. Yeah.
I'm getting Japanese. Asian. I'm getting a strong Asian influence here.
No good.
Yes. With the Chinese food you had last night.
I'm getting if I only could see the color. Is it black?
It's gray.
Gray, that's black. Light black. Light black.
Gray is
light
black. You guys are amazing.
It's light black. I mean, I have to go with my first instinct, man. Honda.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. Very impressive.
It might be the only thing I'm right about all day. Honda what?
It's a Honda Accord, an 85 Honda Accord. It belonged to my parents. They gave it to me after it had 100,000 miles on it. I put another 50 on it, and I was told by the first mechanic I took it to, let's call him Bill. And Bill said, oh, this is a carburetor problem. I had to leave it there overnight because it had a cold start problem in the morning. Leave it overnight. He says, oh, this is a carburetor problem. It's going to cost $600 to replace your carburetor.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I called up a carburetor place because I thought maybe they could rebuild it. So I take it to this guy who works on carburetors, and he says, sure, I can fix it. And he works on it. He's the one who keeps calling me up and telling me he thinks he has it ready. But he thinks he has it now.
Has he rebuilt it?
He took a bunch of gunk out of it, he said.
Yeah.
And he replaced the electric choke.
Yeah.
Okay, it's good.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, he said that he figured out the problem eventually, and the way to fix it, if I don't get this part replaced, you just have to hit it with a hammer. You guys you guys have to tell me what that part is.
Well, he thinks the floats are stuck.
No.
The needle valves are stuck.
No, he said the needles are fine. It's the fuel shut-off solenoid.
Oh, okay.
I've asked him to order that part. He says it may take about a week and a half.
Well, I mean, if that really is the problem, nothing else may have been wrong.
Well, is it true that it starts and runs for like a half a minute and then starts to give you trouble?
No. It does. It runs. It'll turn over. It cranks. It turns over, but it'll catch for maybe a second or two, and then it just dies.
And then it just dies. And how does it then start? What do you have to do to get it started?
I'll start it up, and it's barely running, and I'll pump the gas real hard, and then I'll double clutch it all the way down the street to this guy's shop and leave it there.
That's not what it is then.
Really?
Because that shuts off the fuel completely. It wouldn't run at all. You would never be able to get it started.
He says it's stuck halfway.
Oh, that sounds good, doesn't it?
Oh, come on.
Do you think this
Warning,
guy's ripping me off?
Switching maps
no, he's not ripping me off, but I don't think he knows what's
But he's learning a great deal at
Warning, the server is switching maps to
He said, I know more about 85 Honda Accords than I ever thought I'd learn.
How much is he paying you for this education?
Warning, the server is switching maps to SFCSAR in 6 seconds.
How much has he charged you so far?
Warning, the server is switching maps to SFCSAR in 5 seconds.
For the initial work.
Warning, the server is switching maps to SFCSAR in 4 seconds.
And what he said.
Warning, the server is switching maps to SFCSAR in 3 seconds. Warning, the server is switching maps to SFCSAR in 2 seconds.
You're married to him now.
Warning, the server is switching maps to SFCSAR in 1 second.
You're in this far, Jonathan.
Warning, the server is switching maps to
frankly, I don't think that's going to do it.
Nor do I, but don't let that discourage you.
You guys, I'm disappointed. So what can I do if the fuel solenoid doesn't work?
Jeez. And he didn't check the fuel pump? He never mentioned
I just had the fuel pump replaced.
I mean, it might not even be fuel related. I mean, I don't want to. But I mean, you could have a plugged up catalytic converter.
That's what my father-in-law said. My father-in-law, who loves cars, and he said, check the catalytic converter.
Well, I mean, it could be something like that. It could be lots of things. I don't know why we have focused on this poor little carburetor.
Here's one of the problems with going to a guy that is a, quote, carburetor specialist.
Yeah.
That's all he knows.
That's all he knows, and that's all he's going to fix.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the glove box won't lock, he's going to rebuild your carburetor.
Well, what else can he do?
Because
it's
by
specialty.
Going to him, you've already diagnosed it as a carburetor.
No, Bill diagnosed it.
Well, somebody did.
Well, at one point he did say he was going to take it to another shop and have them figure it out for him. He was at that point.
Well, that's good. I would let him do that.
But then he went back to the fuel solenoid.
No, I'd stick with him. It sounds like he's homing in on it.
Yeah, but he's not there yet.
We're getting warmer.
Yeah, and I predict that you're going to find out it wasn't the carburetor in the first place.
Okay.
Well, we'll be anxious to hear from you.
Okay, I'll let you know.
All right, Jonathan.
Take care.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Bye-bye.
His wife's throwing him out. He's stealing her car.
He's got to tie a pork chop around his neck to get the dog to play with him now. You know, Tommy, in the spirit of the holidays, maybe we should try to give our listeners what they really, really want.
Yeah, more of the show, you mean?
No, more breaks from it.
Done. We'll be back with a brand new puzzler and more of your calls in just a minute.
Going downtown just to have a little fun. Got a switchblade knife and more shotgun. Stick shift down the old blue phone. Put on the pedal, can't ask for more. Hard times going down the road, got my radio on. It ain't so bad. Hard times, I can't quit talking, I'm a lucky man.
And even those skeet shooters everywhere yell, pull, and toss their radios into the air when they hear us say it. This is NPR.
Thanks for listening to Car Talk. For music games, puzzles, and trivia of all sorts, check out Ask Me Another. Ask Me Another. It's like trivia night without the overpriced drinks. Play along now at npr.org/podcast and on the NPR One app. Ha! We're back. You're listening to Car Talk with us, Click and Clack, the Tappert Brothers, and we're here to discuss cars, car repair, and, of course, the new Puzzler. Now, I don't know how this happens, but every once in a while, I unearth a Puzzler from a decade ago, and here's one. I don't even know who this is from.
There's no date.
No date, no name, no...
But it's written in cuneiform.
Yeah. No, it's a guy, Gary, from Santa Clara. Maybe he'll identify himself, from Santa Clara, California. Here it is.
He'll remember.
And I think I mentioned earlier that it's an automotive puzzler, and it kind of is.
You thought it was an automotive
Well, it is, so to speak.
Yeah, okay.
He says, in my time as a shade tree mechanic, I have read many times that one is supposed to remove the negative terminal first, and only then the positive terminal when removing the battery or doing any such kind of electrical work. Installation, as so many instructions say, is the reverse of that procedure. Now, as an electrical engineer, I scoffed at these instructions because I knew that opening a circuit at any point was equivalent to opening it anywhere else.
Sure.
I just undid whatever terminal was handy. Well, one day I was helping a friend change the battery in his garden tractor. Simple enough little job. He happened to be an electrician and knew as well as I that it didn't matter which terminal was removed first. But as we learned the hard way, this isn't true. It does matter which is removed and replaced first. Why?
Oof.
Now, if you think you know the answer, write it on a postcard or on the back of a $26 bill and send it to Puzzler Tower, Car Talk Plaza, Box 3500, Harvard Square, Cambridge.
Our Fair City.
Matt 02238, or you can email your answer to us directly from cartalk.com. But if you have a question right now, the number to call is 888-CAR-TALK. That's 888-2278. Hello,
this is Tim Tyler out of Heartland, Wisconsin.
Heartland, Wisconsin.
Tim Tyler.
America's Dairyland.
America's Dairyland. Okay.
I've got some real tough questions for you guys.
We'll do our best to avoid them.
Knowing you're a gold mine of technical data,
yeah,
I want to know if you're familiar with the Great Wisconsin Cow Magnet Caper.
Cow Magnet Caper.
Oh, of course, the GWCMC. Of course we're familiar with that.
This problem may solve America's automobile crisis, I think.
Okay, well, spill your guts. We're ready.
Cow magnet?
Yeah, first of all, we need to establish if you know what a cow magnet is.
Well, is it similar to a buffalo chip?
Or a cow flap? No, huh?
Cow magnets last longer than buffalo chips.
Oh, are they? What? I honestly have never heard the term cow magnet.
Well, there is
Just
such a
get
thing.
naked
It's not
and
a
don't
joke.
vote
It's
for
a
a
small magnet that's fed to these animals because they have several stomachs and they're not very bright, and they go around eating whatever
Yes,
they can
Pappy.
get their mouths on, and they tear up their stomachs. So they feed them these magnets, and then if
Laughing
they eat
out
bits
loud.
of metal and fencing, it
Thanks
stays
for
in one
changing
stomach.
row back.
And yet it gets
Oh, it doesn't
them
pass from stomach 1 to stomach 2 to stomach
and tear them all.
Better
Also
to lose
keeps
one
them-
stomach than all of them.
That's right. It keeps them nicely in line.
Hospital
and all
is the best
I
bet.
bet. So it's like a surgical implant, except it's ingested.
There you go.
Can I get one of these for my brother? A cow magnet. All right, now we know what a cow magnet is.
Now for the
Now for
leap
the
of
caper.
faith, for the leap of faith into the automobile industry.
Yeah.
Several years
Holy
ago,
shit.
here in Wisconsin, in the Midwest in general, you could not find
I
any
have an
cow
RPG.
magnets. And the reason you couldn't is because there was a grapevine rumor around that if you took several cow magnets and reversed the polarity and laid them along the gas lines, you could increase the gas mileage by several hundred percentage.
Several 100%.
And I figured you guys would know all about this.
Oh,
so
this is-
I want to increase my mileage, and I'm calling to see if you can tell me why this is and where I can get some.
Doug, can't we start screening calls? I mean, do we have to just talk to anybody who calls? This is brilliant. I want to know, did it work?
Well, listen, I drive Jaguars, and it works like a charm. In fact, I've never had any mechanical problems with a Jaguar in 15 years.
Cow magnets on the gas
I put them all over the car.
See, there is a device, and I have one on my truck, and I don't remember the name of it, but somebody who was selling these
Do
things
the RPGs
gave
actually
me
travel
one.
in a straight line
That
in
was
this
only
gap?
after he was unable to sell one to me.
Right.
And I can't remember the name of the device,
Yes,
but it
but
looks
you
like a
need to
little
aim them.
cylinder, and it has
Straight.
two inputs, an input and an output on it, and you shove your gas line from the fuel
Sometimes.
pump into one end, and
Okay,
the
I
output
have
to the
good aim.
carburetor.
So the gas just flows through
The
this
gas
thing.
flows through this thing, and it
I
does
hit a
some
guy
kind
once,
of
I think.
ionization
Of course.
or
Ionizes the gas.
polarization. It's supposed to reduce your emissions by, I don't know, 700%.
Why plus
what is
two
it,
good
300%
for you.
increase in mileage? Something like
Smile.
that.
Yeah.
300 to 400.
300 to
Now,
400.
That's the story I got, too, that it was an ionization
Homo
issue.
smile.
Was this guy named Pons or Fleischman?
Well, anyway, I did finally take the leap of faith, and I installed
Homo
this thing
sapiens.
on my truck. Only because the guy called me every week and asked me,
Howard
"Yet,
just
did you do
trying
it? How
to
you
get a new
doing?"
BF.
And I did install it, and
Same.
I did as I
Could have
promised.
been
I
you.
did check my emissions on
Ha-ha.
a regular basis for many weeks after that, and I did check my mileage, and noticed no difference in either.
Oh.
Well, I'm disappointed.
I was disappointed too,
New
especially
bold
since it
face.
didn't cost me anything.
I mean, you have definitely noticed a
Belly cool.
300% increase.
Don't ask,
using
don't
cow
tell
magnets,
wasn't
huh?
revealed
At
at the time
At least
this
that.
game
And you have
And
no
you-
trouble.
was
Your
made.
windows go down fast enough. You have them like on the
They
side.
go up and down when he doesn't
Be
even press the
careful,
buttons.
Plus, I find I'm drawn to other motorists.
Well, you certainly have stumped us on this
Crash
one.
site
I
courtyard.
have to admit, I have never heard of the cow magnet caper.
You guys are not going to conclude that folks from Wisconsin are utterly ridiculous, are you?
No?
None of the bases was just this one call. No, we have a couple of others as backup. Thanks for your call, Tim.
That should take care of it.
Bye bye. 1-888-CAR Talk or 1-888-227-8255. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Hi, this is Lavinia from Scottsboro, Alabama.
Lavinia, as in Lavinia?
Yes,
And where are you from?
Scottsboro, Alabama.
Scottsboro, Alabama.
Yes.
Okay, I've got it all squared away now. What's up?
Okay, I have this 1991 Dodge Caravan with 197,000 miles on it that's making a terrible sound when I go over a bump.
Just one sound?
WTF.
Well,
Holy
sounds like
shit.
an explosion.
Julia, I hate you.
It makes this explosion sound every time I go over a road
What did I do?
where there's new
Don't
construction.
TKVIP.
There's uneven pavement.
Yeah.
And there's quite a lot around here, and also potholes.
So when you hit something like a pothole, you hear one loud crashing sound, like.
Yes.
Like a heavy,
Very
like a
loud.
thudding sound, like boom.
Oh no, louder, like it sounds like an explosion almost, like a. It sounds as if it's coming from the front passenger side wheel.
Well, tell me this. If you hit something with the left wheel, will the sound come from the right wheel also? Or you have to have the hit be on the right side?
Well, that's a very good question. I think it's mostly if I hit something on the right side.
Yeah.
I've even slowed down to almost a crawl when they were doing construction around here. And if there's any speed at all, if I'm going maybe 20 miles an hour or more, it's just a loud crashing sound.
And if you're going faster, is the loud crashing sound louder?
Louder.
I couldn't live with myself.
It sounds, yes.
And yet you drive this every day. Am I right?
Well,
you probably commute 75 miles each way to work.
No, I'm only about 10 miles one way to work, but still, it's mostly if I'm going to another town, maybe 30 or 40 miles away.
Do you have any kids?
I have 2.
Boys?
Yes.
Either one of them play football?
Well, they did when they were in high school, but now they're in college. Yes.
Yeah. Can you borrow a helmet from one of them?
Just in case.
Just in case.
Well, I mean, it sounds as though there's got to be something loose that's crashing against something. Could you believe it was a big piece of metal slapping against another big piece of metal? Would that qualify as an explosion?
Yes, that sure does. That's a very good description.
I like it then.
Yes.
I like it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the question is, which piece of metal? I'm working on the manifold.
Manifold.
Yeah, okay.
Nobody's mentioned
I'm working on a theory. Go ahead.
Yeah, no one's mentioned that because, what? It's stupid.
A recovering Black Hawk.
I think what's wrong is you have either a broken frame,
okay,
or the engine cradle has come loose or is cracked.
Broken frame or engine cradle?
There's a cradle which bolts to the frame of this vehicle.
Yes.
Which holds the engine and transmission. Okay, and that could either be loose, such that when you do have an impact, you get that slamming effect. Or
why? Well, why would you get a slamming effect?
Because you're causing motion that's not ordinarily part of the dynamic of it. The vehicle's supposed to be going straight ahead, and when it is going straight ahead, that slamming is not. You go over little bumps, you get a bum bum bum. When you go over big bumps, you get bum 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 because there's more energy.
But she doesn't get bum 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 bum. She gets one big explosion.
Well, because you're hitting one bump at a time.
If
you hit 2 bumps in a row, you'd get ba boom. Ba-boom, if they were spaced far enough apart.
Bada bing, bada bang.
Well, I think you have a broken engine cradle or a loose engine cradle.
Okay.
I'm glad he thinks so.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. Could just a regular shop check into that?
Yes.
Or?
Anyone would know what that was.
Okay.
And if they didn't know what it was, then you wouldn't stay there.
And ask them to look for cracks.
Cracks.
Yeah. We're looking for cracks now at my brother's head, and we found 4 so far.
But here's my theory on the manifold. Mm-hmm. I'm going on the basis that what she is hearing is indeed an explosion.
Oh, really?
And when she hits a bump, you've got part of it right, that there's an engine mount that's bad, and it's distorting the crack in the exhaust manifold, and one of the explosions.
Okay, 1-888 Car Talk. That's 888.
I want to talk to her about.
Amelia, we may have to have you on Stump the Chop.
Okay, well, I'll check into this, and thank you so much.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Okie dokie. 1-888 Car Talk.
I didn't like any of those answers. I didn't like mine.
I guarantee
and I didn't like yours.
My answer is right.
You want to have a little side bet?
Yeah.
$5?
Yeah. 888-22.
Lunch?
These $5 bets are killing me. 8255. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Hi, guys. This is Russell from Hartford, Connecticut. How you doing?
Good, Russell. What's happening?
Oh, I got a 1996 Chevy Cavalier, and now that the mercury is falling and the temperatures are going down here in the Northeast, my heater blower has decided to only work on high.
Bummer.
That's the only thing it works on, which I guess is better than nothing. But,
better than low.
Or better than no.
Exactly. But it pretty much drones out any conversation, so I get to take all the people that I don't really like out on rides now, and I won't have to talk to them.
Yeah.
But that's it. I can't figure it out. It doesn't work on the first, second, or third setting, but it only works on high.
So you haven't tried anything, but you are interested in effecting this repair yourself?
I'd like to, because I've been told by a friend that it's something that the dealer would have to deal with, and I'd rather not deal with it. So.
Well, that's not true. It's not something that the dealer has to do.
Okay.
No, you could take this to your local repair shop.
You may have to buy the part from the dealer, but that's no big deal.
Does it sound like something I can do myself?
Sure.
Or, I mean, I'm fairly competent with tools, but I don't know if it's a mystery.
Well, I think you can do this yourself. I don't know exactly where this piece is located, but when you go to the dealer to buy it, because the dealer is the only one from whom you can get it, you can ask them to tell you where it is. And you'll have the added advantage of having the new piece in your hand, and you can scout around, so to speak,
until you find the broken one.
The thing that looks just like it.
Okay.
And what you want is a blower motor resistor.
Okay.
The way the thing works and the way you get 4 speeds is you don't have 4 motors in there. You have 1 motor, and the way they get to 4 speeds is by cutting the voltage to the motor down.
By passing it through a resistor.
So in one case, you're passing it through one series of resistors that makes it go at the lower speed. So you're supplying like 7 volts to the motor, and then you turn it to speed number 2, and you make it go through another path of resistors, which is giving you like 9 volts. You know, you get the picture?
Yeah.
And every time you do that, the motor speed increases until finally...
There's no resistance.
Which is why it works on high all the time.
Okay.
Which is great, because that's the default mode. And wouldn't you want it to work on high as opposed to anything else?
Yeah,
sure.
I'm thankful for what I got.
So stop your complaining.
So, I mean, it's a simple thing. It's inexpensive, but it might be buried.
Well, it's either going to be under the dash or it's under the hood. Where else could it be?
Okay.
On the roof.
Could be in the trunk. And in all likelihood, it's pretty easy to get at. It'll be held on by a couple of screws. And you unplug the new one, pop the new one in, and your friends and loved ones will think you're a bleeding genius.
Well, that's great. Thank you, guys.
See you, Russell.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, it's happened again. You've wasted another perfectly good hour listening to Car Talk. Our esteemed producer is Doug the Subway Fugitive, not a slave to fashion, Bongo Boy Berman. Our associate producers are David the Calves of Belleville Green and Captain Frau Blucher Fenellosa. Our web lackey is Doug the Old Gray Mare, assisted by Connie Britchford. Our engineer is John Cartman Parati. Our theme music is by David Dog Grisman, and our technical, spiritual, and menu advisor, Porterhouse, Portobello, Porter Beer, Porterfest, it's John Bugsy Lawler. Our public opinion is Murphy of Murphy Research, assisted by statistician Margin O'Vera. Our customer care representative is Haywood Jabuzzoff. Our personal makeup artist is Bud Tugley. Our personal security man is Muscles Marinara. Our plastic surgeon is Luke Young. Our empathy counselor is Howard Juno. Our director of top secret strategy is Donatello Nobody.
Howard Juno.
Our meteorologist from the New Delhi office is Luke Autavindo. Our Greek driving instructor is Adjustis Miros. Our payroll supervisor is Titus. Our tolerance quality control guy is Nat Sass. Our employee relations coordinator is Malcolm Tentz. Our chicken supervisioner is Kent Hoyt. Our Russian chauffeur is Pekoff and Dropoff. And our seat cushion tester is Mike Easter. Our chief counsel from the law firm of Dewey, Cheatham & Howe is Hugh Lewis Dewey, known to the whiskey-scented Santas in Harvard Square as Huey Louie Dewey. Thanks so much for listening. We're Click and Clack, the Tappet Brothers, and above all, don't drive like my brother.
And above all, don't drive like his brother.
We'll be back next week. Bye-bye.
When were the... What schools?
Who decides what the next...
Where's that story?
Okay. Why they keep the loop?
Used to.
What is this?
It's Curious City.
Where WBEZ answers your questions
about Chicago, the region, and its people.
This is reporter Monica Eng. I've covered meat and slaughter in Chicago for a long time, so I was super intrigued by this question from Pamela Monaco of Naperville. She wants to know
about the current situation in terms of slaughtering facilities here in Chicago and whether there are still such facilities in existence.
Basically, my assignment's to find remnants of slaughtering and meat packing in Chicago. It's a good question, but Pam's turned it into a great question because she knows Chicago's fallen from its status as the hog butcher to the world. For an answer, we'll start with that reputation and how the city earned it. It turns out, one of Curious City's favorite historians, Dominic Pasiga, just wrote a book about 100 years of animal selling, slaughtering, and rendering in Chicago. Pasiga says we were number one in meatpacking for decades, for a simple reason. our nexus of railroads made Chicago a perfect place to take in trainloads of animals, sell them, and then ship them back out as meat.
In 1865, 9 of those railroads came together to build the Union Stockyard. And later on, when you had refrigerated railroad cars that could take chilled beef east, Chicago really dominated even the eastern and eventually even the California meat markets.
The city's meat industry grew, peaking in 1924. In that year alone, just 1 square mile of stockyards on the southwest side processed 18.6 million animals. To handle them, the stockyards made jobs for an estimated 40,000 workers. But that's not all they made.
I guess the downside was there's a lot of pollution and a lot of stench.
So like a lot of kids who grew up around the yards, Pasiga taunted his pals with this burn.
Roses are red, violets are blue, the stockyards stink, and so do you.
The stench didn't stop the tourists, though. As many as 500,000 a year flocked to the yard. Pasiga said it was kind of like the Museum of Science and Industry, showing off the miracles of modern processors like Armour & Company.
You know, it took a skilled butcher and his apprentice about 8 to 10 hours to dress a steer in 1890. It took 35 minutes at Armour & Company.
This modern meat show even became a popular Chicago public school field trip. Back in 1941, WBEZ volunteer Ed Kramer went with his 8th grade class. They took the L to the yards and then stood over the pens on a catwalk.
And down below us, the cows were being let in through a chute. A chain was whipped around the back legs of the cows. They were hoisted up into the air. Someone came along with a huge wooden sledge, hit them on the head, it stunned them, and then their throats were cut.
Can you imagine what that permission slip must have said?
At that point, at least 6 people in the group started to
Not long before Ed Kramer took that school tour, Chicago's stockyards had already begun to lose their competitive edge. By the 1930s, modern highways were making it easier to transport animals by truck instead of rail.
So let's say you were meatpacker XYZ, you could send your buyer to a farm, offer to send a truck to pick up the cattle, pay the farmer, bring it to your packing house out in the countryside someplace, and then it could be shipped out in a refrigerated truck as meat to Chicago.
Today, the industrial-sized slaughtering that Chicago was known for, it's mostly done in rural Iowa, Nebraska, and Minnesota. But that's not to say that all of Chicago's slaughtering facilities are gone. Remember, Pamela Monaco asked if there's some left, and the answer's yes. The city still hosts a small meat-packing district where carcasses are butchered and sold, plus 11 slaughterhouses, mostly little neighborhood joints that focus on poultry. But 3 are all about mammals, like sheep, goats, and pigs. All of these places are way smaller than the industrial-scale Union stockyards. I'm going to profile one of the slaughterhouses and one meat packer to give you a sense of how they survived. First up is the little Halsted packing house at 400 North Halsted. Cookie and Callie Davos run the place. They're sisters who never meant to go into slaughter, but then their dad died of a sudden heart attack.
We just came down here to reassure everyone that they still had jobs, and we've been here ever since.
That was in 1994 when...
It was completely male-dominated, and it's a little rough, to say the least. We came in all polite, and we got a little rough, too. And I think all the men were taking bets how long those 2 girls are going to last.
21 years later, they still oversee a staff of mostly men, between taking orders, balancing the books, and greeting customers. Davos says most of those customers are immigrants, folks who want the kind of fresh meat you can't get at the supermarket, like Joe from West Africa.
Every week I come here.
What do you get, and what do you cook with it?
I eat goat meat, and the cow tails, and I cook stew, some African stuff, spicy and delicious.
But you don't get delicious meat without a kill floor. Today, young pigs are bleeding out, tumbling in the de-hairing machine, then getting disemboweled before heading to a large cooler. There, they join lambs and goats of various sizes. And all this startles some people.
They expect everything to be in a beautiful little plastic package and freshly scented. We actually slaughter here. We have live animals come in. We're going to have all sorts of different smells.
But some people are actually attracted to Halsted packing because they slaughter on site. In fact, some customers arrange to kill their own animals here as part of religious traditions. Grant Park Packing is a mile away under the Lake Street L. It's different. They don't slaughter, just pack. But owner Joe Maffei gets by offering cuts like guanciale and pancetta, special stuff you can't get from a big meat packer.
Anything a customer asks for, we could almost provide him with. Different cuts, because we're on a small scale.
And this meat is going to whom?
It goes to stores, delis, restaurants, homes, anybody that could pay me.
Well,
Maffei only processes a few hundred pigs a day. He's been operating in the district for almost half a century. But see?
It's almost all gone.
Couch is moving.
Including us pretty
I am
soon.
dead.
Really? How many more years do you think he'll be here?
Months, you mean?
He says between the rising rents and local and state rules, it's just getting harder to continue. Callie Davos sees a similar end to her family business. She says there's just less demand. But historian Dominic Pasiga sees room for a mini stockyard renaissance, spurred not so much from immigrants as the burgeoning local artisanal meat movement.
At the end of the book, I make a plea for the locavore movement, that we could still have a livestock market in Chicago and we could still kill locally. Because it makes you think, what am I eating? And where did it come from? And what am I putting in my body? and I think that's an important part of life.
I believe my boyfriend too good for
Reporting for the story came from me, Monica Eng. Support for Curious City comes from the Doris and Howard Conant Fund for Journalism.
I'm going away, baby, and I'm going to stay.
Japanese-style massage by blind South Sudanese. WNYC, New York Public Radio, far from the bright lights of Broadway. Some of you might be feeling a little, shall we say, overserved after last night. Maybe a little draggy, not a lot of pep in your step. It's okay. Your superpowers will return. In the meantime, here's a found recipe classic that's all about one woman's super skills.
My name's Claudia Lucero, and I can make cheese in 1 hour.
That's right. Claudia Lucero of Portland, Oregon has the power of 1 hour cheese.
Mozzarella, ricotta, paneer, goat cheese, queso blanco.
Okay, all right. Full disclosure, these are actually simple cheeses. Lucero, the woman behind UrbanCheesecraft.com, says to make them, you don't need superpowers. You only need practice. And they're relatively easy to make in an hour or less. But cheddar?
Well, not
cheddar,
always.
You age anywhere from 2 months to 10 years to make it really sharp.
If you want
Crazy, I don't have that kind of time. I've got 1 hour.
There can be cheese.
Nonetheless, Claudia Lucero has created a 60-minute pseudo cheddar. She calls it the smoky cheater. Here's how she did it.
What I want is a firm wheel that you can slice and have as a snack. It has that golden cheddar hue, and I wanted a really nice savory flavor with a little bit of tart aftertaste. I separate the curds from the milk after having added turmeric for color and smoked paprika, and then I kind of want to do a little bit of a cheddaring process. And what that normally is you press the curds together, stack them on top of each other, leave them for a while, come back, do another folding and stacking. Well, if we're doing cheddar in 1 hour, we got to snap this up, and so I do that for about a minute and move along. And so, I know at this point I'm very much drunk on my own power. I press it into my wheel mold, and it's looking amazing. I let it cool for a bit, pop it out, and it's gorgeous, and I really think I did it. I'm a total genius. But then I go to slice it, and it feels a little squeaky. There's a little resistance, but that's okay. I keep going, and I try to melt it.